Connie Baker from the Allegheny Highlands Arts and Crafts Center, and we have been interviewing artists and exhibitors just to get their ideas on what they're doing here. And we're also going to, and have been interviewing some of our volunteers. And so today I'm interviewing Clyde Hart. He is a volunteer. He's also on the Gallery Assist Committee. He helps to hang exhibits. And Clyde is also a board member. So welcome and good morning.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
It's good to have you. So tell me, Clyde, how did you become interested in volunteering at the center, and why do you enjoy it?
Well, okay, I became interested because I've always been interested in art. I have absolutely no talent in that regard. So it seemed to me the next best thing to visiting galleries, which I did a lot of as a kid growing up, to work as a volunteer in one. So if I couldn't make art or produce art, at least I could help those who do.
Okay. So where did you begin viewing and visiting?
Well, I was lucky enough to grow up in northern New Jersey. So New York City was basically my playground. So there were any number of museums. The Metropolitan Museum of Art was a favorite of mine. And there were endless galleries downtown around, at that time, around what's known as Washington Square and Sheridan Square. And so I would just walk from one gallery into another and just try to engage anybody who was there, particularly if they knew anything about art. So, and it just continued. And so I was lucky enough to travel when I was younger, so I got to see any number of galleries and museums and other places. So that was also very helpful.
So was there anyone in your family that were artists? I mean, how did that come to be?
I'm not sure how it came. There were no, as far as I know, there were no artists in my family, but there were musicians. Okay. My aunts played piano, my mother played piano. I had aunts who played piano and organ, and so that was as close as I came to the arts. I'm not sure how it happened, but the idea of being able to put paint on a canvas and for it to look like something was just amazing to me. And so anybody who could do that, I was more than happy to look at.
Okay. Well, we're thrilled that you're with us.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Okay, so we know that today, in these times, there's been a lot of loud conversations, discussions about racism and prejudice, and anyone can see that you're black and I'm white. So I just wanted to know, when someone says, "I don't see color," what does that mean to you?
Actually, I want to go up to him and say, well, thank you very much, but you and I both know that's not true. Frankly, because that's how you identify people. That's how any of us identify people. The first thing that anybody says, or almost anybody says, I know this guy, or you have an interaction with the police. Yeah, well, what did he look like? Well, he was black, and you go from there. So when you say you don't see color, I assume they mean it well, but I'm not gonna go for that. I don't think that's true. I think deep down, you'd like not to see color maybe, but you're going to. So the question is, what do you do then? How do you react? What do you do when you see somebody in front of you who's, obviously the cut of, as a boss of mine used to say, the cut of their eyes is different, or their skin color is different. The question is, what does that mean to you? How do you react to that?
Okay, so when was the first time that you ever experienced the painful racism?
Let's see. I guess the first time, I think I was 8. And my family, my mother, my brother, and I, every spring, we'd get a new suit. We got suits twice a year in my family. During the springtime and at Christmas time, you got a new suit. So it's spring one year when I was 8, my brother's 6, we go to what then was a big retailer called Robert Hall. That was the main place where you got clothes. So we're walking from Robert Hall's, and this little kid who couldn't have been more than 8 watched the 3 of us go by and yelled the N-word. And my brother and I just wheeled around and said, well, I'm not sure what we thought, but we said, well, we can't let this stand. My mother said, don't. And she said, he's ignorant, don't worry about it, it doesn't mean anything. Thinking about it and talking to my brother about it, we think to this day that she did that to save us, because we're in a white neighborhood, we're 2 black kids going to beat up on a white kid. That's not gonna go over well. So you gotta go with it, get out of there. And that's what we did.
What do you want me and others like me to know, treasure, and respect about Black culture?
Oh, that it's always been there. That it's not so much Black culture as American culture. If you talk about the blues, you talk rock and roll, blues, gospel, going back. You talk about clothing, you talk about language, you talk about how different things are done. A lot of that was, rice cultivation came over from Africa. They brought in Africans to help them cultivate rice. So that's, it's just part of us. Us being the U.S. And it's always going to be there, and you just have to acknowledge it. And if you respect it, fine, move on, and let's go.
So I've heard someone say one time that we talk about soul food, and then we talk about soul food and southern cooking.
Food. Right? Yeah.
And is there any difference?
I'm not sure there is a difference. I'm really not. My family grew up in the South. My grandparents were part of the first wave of migration that came from the South to New Jersey for jobs. And anytime I'd go back, I'd get them. If I went back to the South, I'd get the same food. It wasn't any different to me. There might be regional differences. Like I've never, I don't think I've had Texas food, if there's any difference, or Tex-Mex, if there's any difference. So there might be some regional differences, but I don't think there's that much difference. The spices are going to be the same. The way you cook things are going to be the same. Even the names are going to be the same. Hoppin' John, for one, which is a New Year staple in most Black households. Is probably, as far as I know, could be a New Year staple in most white Southern households.
Black American or American that happens to be Black?
Oh, I'm not sure it matters. I really don't. I'm an American. If I have my druthers, I'm an American that happens to be Black. But that's just a personal choice. That's just me. I fought for the country. I was 4 years in the military. So I've always considered myself an American. I think I'm an American who happens to be Black. But again, that's a personal choice. And frankly, I don't make too much of that issue. Okay, whatever you want is fine with me.
Okay. So, what gives you hope about?
Oh, geez, what gives me hope? Well, what gives me hope is the fact that time moves on. There are elections. Elections have consequences. Things happen after elections, and maybe the next election will be, in my view, better result. So that gives me hope. The fact that there is always another election, and also the fact that it seems that the younger generation has much less, I'm going to say, tolerance for the sort of racism that is out there. And I think I agree with Will Smith, the actor, who said he's not sure that racism is increased, but he thinks that it's just being recorded more. And I think that's true. And I think everybody now has got a cell phone. So when you say something and people say, smile for the camera, they really mean it, and you're going to be viral in no time at all. I think that sort of gives me hope, because I've always thought that bad things happen in the dark. Good things happen when it's light. And so when you put a light on something, people will look up and say, oh no, that's not right. I wouldn't want that happening to me. Why would I want to do that to somebody else? So that's what I guess gives me hope.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So Clyde, you said you had the opportunity to travel a whole lot. So how did that come to be? What did you do before?
Well, there were a couple of things. First, I was in the military for 4 years. And frankly, that was the first time I got to travel overseas. And one of the defining moments that I can remember as a young man going or traveling in the Air Force was they sent me to Athens, Greece to do something. I forget what. And I remember getting off the plane in Athens, Greece. And at the time, the airport, Athene Airport, was downtown Athens. So you get out of the airport and you look up and there's the Acropolis. And it was sort of like, oh my God, I'm at the Acropolis. And whatever education I had, Greek culture was part of it. And I'm here. Yeah. And that was the travel bug. For me, that was the sort of the travel bug. I just had to see everything. So there was the Air Force. And I did a fair amount of traveling with them: Greece, Turkey, Greenland, Thailand, Taiwan, etc. And then when I got out, I still wanted to travel, so I would save up money after law school and just take trips. So I got to go to China, and I got to go to Japan, and a couple of other places, and I've just continued that. My wife loves to travel too, so we take trips maybe once a year. We'll try and, before COVID, try and just sign on a tour somewhere and just go. And we love it. We just have a wonderful time.
Wow. So what kind of law did you practice?
I practiced transportation law, antitrust. I did a little EEO, Equal Employment Opportunity Law. And I practiced, and then I went and worked for the United States Senate, and Fritz Hollings from South Carolina, and then Dan Inouye from Hawaii. I worked for them. That was by far the best job I think I've ever had, being a staffer at the Senate. That was just, at the time, it was just wonderful. It's probably a different place now. In fact, I'm sure it is, but back then it was, you'd fight all day with the opposite numbers, but you'd go out to dinner after it was over, and you'd sit down and have dinner and have a couple of drinks and try and sort out the day. So I really, really enjoyed that. And it also afforded me a chance to keep traveling, because there were always CODELs, which congressional delegations, going to someplace. So that was a wonderful job.
Wow.